What it do, Dream Team? It's your boy D Neil back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with Denmark declares war on multiculturalism. I'm intrigued about watching this. This is a longer video, so I am going to split this video up into two different parts. Before we dive in, make sure y'all subscribe, ring notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. And let's see what this war is about.
For many years, decades even, the wealthy Nordic social democracies were seen as the perfect haven for immigration. Regardless of origin, race, religion, or any other condition, most of these countries were built due to the arrival of hundreds of thousands of foreigners. Even so, for some time now, this open-door attitude has begun to change. Migration policy has even been decisive in driving changes in government. For instance, 2 of the 4 continental Nordic countries are no longer in the hands of social democratic parties. Conservative governments have made inroads in Sweden and Finland, while in Denmark, the government is formed by a large coalition of social democrats and conservative liberals. This latter case may seem an odd mix, but we're talking about a country that has been particularly tough on illegal immigration and very restrictive in terms of refugee policies for years now, no matter who actually governs. Look at this.
Mette Frederiksen, the face of the anti-immigration left in Denmark. Advocating a zero-refugee policy, her government has pursued a controversial project to relocate asylum seekers to Rwanda while their applications are processed. The country has also revoked residence permits for Syrians hailing from regions it considers safe.
And of course, at this point, many
Denmark said, ain't having it. See what's going on over there in Sweden. See what all this immigration doing. Can't do it. Can't. Denmark said, Y'all know my stance on immigration. I hate that. I understand why there's like, no, they're shutting their borders down. Or not wanting immigration. Understand completely. I just hate like when people are just born in terrible situations and then they try to go somewhere else for a better opportunity or a safer place. And then it's like, sorry, you can't come here. It sucks. But I understand the flip side of that is when people go over to these other countries and start like doing crime or start doing things that would worsen the country. It's like, it's like, you understand it, but it sucks. It sucks for the people that really are looking for a new opportunity, that really need a safe haven, that really want to escape from their country and start over. But it sucked for the country if they allowed so much immigration to the point where, like, in Sweden, I saw a video where it seemed like crime was ramping up and everything was getting bad. So it's like, what do you do, dog?
Many of you may be wondering, why is it that the Nordic countries, which have traditionally been so open and so tolerant of the arrival of migrants, are now radically changing their tune? More importantly, what kind of policies are they putting in place? And why are we talking about them on Visual Politic? Could this be a taste of what is to come in the next few years? Well, these questions and more will be answered coming up. Step on the gas and let's get started. The first question I think we have to answer is, why? Why are the Nordic nations becoming more and more reluctant on the immigration issue? What on earth has happened to bring about such a change? Well, the truth is that the answer is complex, and there are many variables involved. For example, the insufficient capacity to integrate so many people from so many different cultures may be causing, as we shall soon see, some security issues. But by far the greatest influence on this paradigm shift has had to do with the welfare state. Undoubtedly, the backbone of the social cohesion model in these countries. It is no secret that in Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark, and Iceland, the state plays a central role in protecting people. It is by far the best known feature of the Nordic countries. Basically, if you are born in one of these countries, you will almost certainly have no problem accessing healthcare, a home, a pension, and subsidies of any kind, especially when it comes to promoting increasing birth rates.
Now that's beautiful. You feel it? That's gorgeous. That all sounds absolutely amazing.
This chart makes it very clear. To give you an idea, the 5 Nordic countries are in the top 10 countries with the highest spending on education and healthcare as a percentage of GDP. And right up there on the podium, we find 2 of them, Iceland and Denmark. Naturally, these elephantine welfare states have to be financed in some way, for instance, through taxes. The Nordic countries have a tax burden of more than 40%. And obviously, the fact...
I see most people say like around like 30 to 33% is what I've seen in the comment section when talking about tax. So like 30. And I guess, of course, if you're wealthier, you're making more money than you're paying 40, like upwards of 40% because you're making more money.
That they are historically rich, advanced, and very competitive economies also helps them to have first-class public services. This means that, in these countries, a high percentage of workers are highly qualified professionals with high salaries. This makes it easier for the state to collect a lot of money and maintain very high social benefits without excessively limiting the purchasing power of its workers and the competitiveness of its companies. So, what is the problem? Well, the problem is that a very large number of the immigrants that these countries have received in recent years are people without good educational or professional training, and that greatly limits their fiscal contribution, while at the same time, they tend to consume more public resources.
Understandable.
The lack of qualifications also leads to serious problems in accessing the labour market, despite the fact that we are talking about countries with very low levels of unemployment. And that's not all. Since social benefits in these countries tends to be very generous, they sometimes have a pull effect. Let's just say that it could become more profitable to receive subsidies than to have a low-skilled job. The issue is that, in the long run, this leads to integration problems, a much more widespread underground economy, and also to the emergence of criminal groups. We already talked about...
I mean, that's completely understandable. I mean, you get all these people coming in who don't really have the skills that you need, so they have to go into less, like, lower labor work where they're not making as much money, where you're making more money by basically just getting off benefits. So it's like, well, I don't blame you. Like, if you give me more money on benefits, I probably wouldn't work too either. Like, give me the benefits. Why am I working? So if you're making more on benefits and everything, then I understand, and I understand how these countries start to have those integration problems with trying to integrate all these refugees and all these migrants into your society and everything. And if they start pulling more on those benefits, and it starts becoming a burden on the state and a burden on the country, and it makes sense. It's understandable.
The latter in a past video about Sweden, which, if you are watching this video, I think you will also be very interested in it. I'll leave the link in the description. The point is that, for all these reasons, the large increase in immigration that has taken place in Europe in recent years has had a much greater impact on the welfarist Nordic states than on other European countries. Think about it for a moment. The incentive for people to go to countries with so many subsidies is enormous, which, logically, has also led to a significant increase in social spending in these countries. Then on top of that, if we add the increase of refugees registered since the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, the cocktail becomes even more bitter. Visual politic community, all that we are telling you has had 2 very clear effects. On the one hand, the Nordics are seeing how their public services and welfare state are degrading, basically because there are more and more claimants. Claimants who, in most cases, have contributed nothing or very little to the system. This generates an important structural gap in the short and medium term. And on the other hand, we have the economic and financial effect, as some countries have had to choose either to cut benefits or to increase taxes.
Norway to hike taxes by $3 billion on power firms, fish farms, costs linked to taking in refugees.
$3 billion? Costs linked to taking in refugees. Gosh.
Ongoing public construction projects, benefit payments, and household power subsidies will rise by some 100 billion crowns in 2023, the government has said.
We're talking about a scenario that is starting to cause a lot of unrest.
Yeah, I can imagine it would.
And precisely to curb this drift, the old and well-known Nordic social democracies are tightening the requirements for access to public benefits, while also doing away with their open door policy and their traditionally tolerant stance on immigration.
Finland's new government announces paradigm shift with immigration crackdown. Residence permits granted under international protection will become temporary and their duration will be reduced to the EU minimum. They will in future be withdrawn if a person is on holiday in their country of origin. It also aims to establish separate social security benefit systems for immigrants and permanent residents.
Now, if all this is not enough for you, give us a moment, because we have only just begun.
Nordic states to tighten collaboration on migrant deportations. One common goal was ensuring the deportation of foreigners without residence permits to their countries of origin.
On the 31st of October 2023, the 5 Nordic countries signed 3 initiatives that represent a further step in this complete paradigm shift. We are talking about a new strategy to promote the voluntary departure of immigrants and refugees, as well as the expulsion of illegal immigrants. Nevertheless, even taking this change into account, the truth is that one country in particular is being the toughest by far in trying to tackle the problems that have been caused in recent decades. A country where the iron fist is a general consensus among all political forces. We are talking about Denmark.
Denmark said they ain't having it, dog. They said, and we see what's going on in the other Nordic countries around us, and we're not having that here. We're not, and it's like as bad as it may be, we're not taking in no more immigration. It's too much. It's too much of a burden trying to integrate. It's too much of a burden getting these separate social security things. It's too much of a burden when they start taking more of the benefits and people are being taxed higher. And of course, as a person, you know what I'm saying? Of course, you want your country to be open for people to come in for new opportunities, for a safer place to be, for all that. But at the same time, if that's more money out your pocket, at a certain point, you start to say like, can't take anymore. I don't have any more money to give to taxes. I can't afford to give more. You feel me? And so, like I said, it sucks, but I understand.
We are going to tell you may surprise many of you, and above all, it may change your opinion or the image that you have of the land of Lego and licorice. Just 3 decades ago, Denmark was one of the most open to immigration and refugees in all of Europe, and perhaps the world. It was also one of the countries that put the most aid on the table. Yet, not even a shadow of that Denmark remains today. So naturally, the question is, what exactly are we talking about when we say that Denmark is using an iron fist? Is it perhaps the advanced pupil that is leading the way for a new policy throughout Europe? Well, let's take a look.
By hook or by crook?
What that mean?
As we have already told you, Denmark is by far the Nordic country that has taken the most radical approach against illegal immigration, the toughest country in the Nordic region and, perhaps, in the whole of Europe. Let us point out that this is not something strictly new. It is not a decision that was taken just the day before yesterday. And to illustrate that, we have the agreements that Denmark signed, and more importantly, those that it did not sign within the framework of the European Union. You see, after the Danes rejected the Maastricht Treaty in the first referendum, which is one of the founding treaties of the European Union, the EU authorities agreed with Copenhagen on 4 opt-out clauses. Of these, 2 are still valid and applicable today. Take note. First of all, the Danes would not adopt the euro and would keep the Danish krone, which is obviously not relevant to the subject we're talking about. The second, however, is much more significant. Denmark is also exempt from complying with most of the European laws and obligations concerning, among other things, asylum and the distribution of refugees and irregular immigrants. This was something that was agreed in 1997 with the Amsterdam Treaty. And since then, the truth is that the Danes have pretty much done as they please with their migration policy. Now, what is the greatest indicator?
I feel like each country should be able to decide for themselves their terms on asylum and immigration. I'm not sure if that's how it is, but see, that's how it is for the Danes. So I'm not sure how it is if the rest of the European Union just all go by the same laws and rules when it comes to immigration and asylum, or what's up.
To reveal this, none other than its zero refugee policy. Yes, you heard correctly.
We're going to go ahead and end it right there for part one. Zero refugee policy. Jesus. Yeah, they just said they can't. And they used to, it's crazy. They used to be one of the most giving countries in the world by giving the most aid, and open doors to all. But they just got too big of a burden on them. They put down the iron fist and said, no more. Borders closed. Borders closed. Can't nobody else come here, dog. If you're here, you good. If you're not, then you got to go somewhere else. Point blank, period. I'm intrigued to learn more about this. We'll get to part 2 tomorrow, but that's all we got. Make sure y'all subscribe, ring notification bell, get a video a thumbs up. It's your boy D-Neil. Out.